Hey guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for Eden Zero Chapter 67. So, you guys know I don't give Mashima enough credit, like pretty much everyone else in the world. But, honestly, after reading this chapter, I gotta say, he basically handled this, this confrontation between Homura and Kurenai as near perfectly as possible, if not perfectly. Because in many respects, how Mashima handled this confrontation between mother and daughter, Homura and Kurenai, and just uh, he honestly handled this better than how even I pictured in my head. And to start off with, and in terms of this whole confrontation and basically Homura gaining closure over her mother, Homura said it best. The only connection she has to her mother is the stuffed animal. But beyond that, every personal connection and every memory she's created for herself has been with either Valkyrie or her friends among the Eden Zero crew. Kurenai, where Kurenai stands in Homura's memories is, and basically as Homura so eloquently put it, is just she's someone less than a stranger to her. Literally, Homura, obviously Homura has pretty much has basically many negative feelings towards pretty much towards Kurenai when it comes to Kurenai when it comes to Kurenai killing Valkyrie, but as just a person. Kurenai does not Kurenai is just less than a stranger. She's just someone that exists that she's pretty much just met and just honestly exists. That's pretty much all pretty much that's all Kurenai is to Homura. And that's also part of the reason as to why Homura literally couldn't even hold on to a grudge, because she doesn't know who Kurenai is. And this in itself, it pretty much puts full front and center the perfect representation of the whole idea of basically how pretty much family doesn't always mean how family doesn't always equate to blood. Just because Kurenai had given birth to Homura doesn't mean that basically Homura even recognizes her as her mother. Homura has created so many memories with Valkyrie that, again, it's been said many times before, but Homura only sees Valkyrie as her mother. She doesn't know who or basically how to recognize pretty much Kurenai. Kurenai again is less than a stranger to her. So it's yes, she obviously has this grudge. She obviously had this, I guess, pretty much hatred towards Kurenai towards Kurenai for basically killing Valkyrie. There was even less. She couldn't find a legitimate reason in order to hold on to that hatred either. So but at the same time, and to give it credit, one aspect of this I do really like is how it wasn't a case where pretty much Homura ended up forgiving Kurenai either. Pretty much when it came to the that was the one important thing that I really liked in this chapter, is how there wasn't really any in this whole confines of Homura from gaining closure over Kurenai. It was a thing where she didn't obviously for her pretty much Kurenai is a person who doesn't exist or who she has no connection with, but at the same time, or who Kurenai has no connection with, who Kurenai is someone who Homura obviously has no connection with, but at the same time she couldn't. At the same time, I do like how Homura didn't necessarily even forgive Kurenai either. Like that was the most important part because yeah, that's actually that little piece alone of basically Homura saying I don't forgive you. I don't have any connection with you, and I don't know who you are, but I still don't forgive you, and that's I think one of the key pieces because that is honestly in many respects a far cry from how from that's a far cry from how Mashima has handled a lot of this before. Like in like again, I keep going back to this obviously, but with Fairy Tail, it was all about forgiveness and whatnot, but with yeah, with and maybe he might have done something like this in Rave Master, but yeah, with it was like Homura just did not flat out forgive Kurenai at all. She's like, I don't forgive you, but I basically share no connection with you, so I and that in itself also puts into perspective how after learning of Valkyrie's death, Homura really had no interest in taking revenge from the beginning either. All Homura was doing was mourning the death of the only person she knew as her mother. Which, yeah, so yeah, I've probably gone on way too long of a tangent with this, but yeah, this chapter is just so meaty in terms of that one moment with Homer and Kurenai like meeting and whatnot, like meeting and Homer like gaining closure over her mother and whatnot. Um, Now, having said that, I will admit Mashima went in a slightly different direction than I pretty much thought in terms of in terms of Kurenai's like pretty much comeuppance than I expected. I mean, in some in because as I predict, I kind of theorized in my last video that there would be something that would end up disrupting the whole like the whole reunion between like Kurenai and Homura and their like talk or whatnot, but in but no that didn't happen at all. And in some ways. And in some ways, that in terms of the way that Mashima did handle Kurenai's comeuppance, it does make sense for the people who wronged who she wronged in order to be the ones in order to be the final nail in the proverbial coffin of her downfall. But at the same time, this just pretty much just the fact that basically Drac and Joe had pretty much no part in interfering with their with this whole with this whole thing of Homer trying to gain closure. That in itself just kind of raises the question even more of where the where the hell Drac and Joe is and how and what he's going to be doing from here, and or just in general when he's going to make his reappearance. Because while I'm happy that Homer managed to retain the closure with her mother without any interference, part of me was part of me was also during that whole conversation, part of me was just waiting for the hammer to drop and just what Drac and Joe's first move would be, and we didn't get any of that. I mean, I suppose it's possible that those men have allied with him, but yeah, because he didn't make any big appearance at all, it weirdly felt like a missed opportunity in some way. But knowing Drac and Joe, is basically still out there when he does make reappearance. It's guaranteed to be still like big and bombastic, I'm sure. So yeah, it's a weird thing, but yeah, I was just I guess a little things like when it came to the whole Dragon Joe aspect, I guess I expected a little more. I don't know what I was expecting, but yeah, I expected to see a little bit of him, like an interference piece with him interfering or whatnot, but he didn't do that. So yeah, I don't know what Mashima's got planned for Dragon Joe now, but yeah, I suppose in some ways it keeps the intrigue going with him though. Um, and yeah, at this point, I'm willing to officially declare Valkyrie certifiably dead, which, again, I have to give Mashima credit for sticking to his guns on that. But at the same time, I do still have to wonder how these ether metals are going to come into play, if at all. Because at some point, at this point, the only things I can think of in terms of how the ether metals are going to come into play is that it's going to give like pretty much Pino a new upgraded body, which, as I've been reminded, she is like Pino is one of the newer generation of machines that could take over that could take over for Valkyrie as a Starshine. Or again, these ether metals might play into whatever scheme like Draken Joe is planning. But yeah, in general, like as weird as it is to say, the pretty much ether metals, the ether metals aspect of this storyline has been largely sidelined. So I want to know what purpose they'll have before the story closes, because like Mashima has largely it's basically these ether metals are something that the Mashima has largely introduced, but he hasn't really done anything with them. So like other than obviously with the whole ether cannon and whatnot, but it's like is that the only purpose it's going to serve in the arc, or is there going to be more to it? Like yeah, I want to know more if these ether metals are going to have more of a purpose than what was presented, but. Uh, but yeah, guys, that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and list your Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.